Bronze armor crashes against the earth. The battlefield trembles, spears splinter, men scream. And in the center of the chaos, a god bleeds. Not a soldier, not a hero, a god. The god of war himself. Ares staggers backward, roaring with rage as divine blood drips onto the dust of Troy. Across from him stands a mortal warrior. One man, one spear. But behind that spear is something far more dangerous. A whisper in the warrior's ear, a calm voice guiding his hand. A goddess, Athena. And suddenly the impossible happens. The god of war falls. Ares screams as the spear tears into him, sending the immortal fleeing from the battlefield like a wounded beast. A god defeated, not by strength, not by fury, but by a plan. Because in Greek mythology, war had two faces. One was rage, the other was intelligence. And every time these two forces collided, the same terrifying truth emerged. Brute force may win the first strike, but strategy wins the war. Tonight we enter the ancient rivalry between two gods who represent the two minds of battle. One ruled with chaos, the other ruled with calculation. And their conflict reveals a brutal truth. Humanity still hasn't learned.
Unveil the legends.
War shaped ancient Greece. City against city. Fleet against fleet. Brother against brother. And the Greeks believed war itself had two rulers. The first was Ares, the storm of battle. Where Ares walked, cities burned. He loved the clash of shields, the crunch of bone, the scream of dying soldiers. To him, war wasn't tragedy. It was entertainment. He charged first, thought later. If he thought at all. Ancient stories describe him as rage-given flesh, a god who thrived on bloodshed and chaos rather than tactics or purpose. Even the other gods didn't trust him, because Ares didn't fight to win. He fought because he liked fighting. Then, there was Athena, quiet, cold, watching. She was born in one of the strangest moments in mythology, bursting fully armored from the skull of Zeus himself. Not screaming, not crying, ready for war, but Athena wasn't the god of rage. She was the god of thinking. Where Ares saw enemies, Athena saw patterns. Where Ares rushed forward, Athena waited. Because she understood something Ares never could. War isn't won by the strongest warrior. It's won by the last one still standing. And that requires something far more dangerous than strength. Strategy. The Greeks understood this deeply. That's why temples to Athena stood proudly across cities, while Ares was often feared more than worshipped. Two gods, two philosophies, two ways to fight a war, and eventually they would collide. The war that would expose their rivalry forever began with a woman and a golden apple. The Trojan War. A decade of bloodshed, a decade of siege, a decade where gods themselves stepped onto the battlefield. And the gods chose sides. Ares sided with Troy, because Troy promised one thing he loved above all, endless slaughter. Athena chose the Greeks, not out of kindness, out of calculation, because Athena didn't just fight wars, she directed them. While Ares charged through the battlefield like a wildfire, Athena moved pieces like a chess master. One of her favorite pieces? A warrior named Diomedes, a brutal fighter. But under Athena's guidance, something more. One night, Athena descended from Olympus, invisible, silent. She placed divine courage into Diomedes' chest. Then she whispered instructions: who to strike, who to avoid, where to aim. The battlefield changed instantly. Diomedes began cutting through Trojan warriors like a blade through cloth. Then something unthinkable happened. Ares himself entered the battle. The ground shook as the god of war roared across the field. Armor blazing, spear raised, a god against a man. But Athena stepped beside Diomedes. Invisible, she grabbed the spear, guided the throw, and the weapon struck Ares directly. Divine bronze piercing divine flesh. The god of war screamed loud enough to shake the sky, and then he ran. Ares fled the battlefield, humiliated. Even the god of war was powerless against a plan. Moments like this appear again and again in Greek myth. Athena guiding heroes like Odysseus and Perseus through intelligence and tactical thinking rather than brute strength. The message was clear. Rage might start the fight, but wisdom finishes it. But the deeper truth behind their rivalry is darker than most people realize. Because Ares and Athena were never just enemies. They were something far more disturbing. They were reflections of us. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The Greeks didn't create two war gods by accident. They were describing two sides of the human brain. Ares is instinct, anger, the animal inside every soldier that screams, attack, destroy, survive. That part of the mind is ancient, primal, and terrifyingly powerful. But Athena represents something newer, the strategist, the planner, the mind that calculates 3 moves ahead. When the Greeks told stories about Athena defeating Ares, they weren't just telling war stories. They were explaining how civilization itself survives, because raw violence destroys everything: cities, families, empires. But strategy builds. That's why Athena became the protector of cities, the architect of defenses, the patron of generals, while Ares remained something darker, a symbol of war's ugliness, the bloodlust, the madness, the uncontrollable fire inside conflict. Think about it. The Greeks admired warriors, but they revered thinkers. And that's why Athena became one of the most respected gods in the entire Greek world, while Ares was often treated as a dangerous embarrassment because deep down, even warlike civilizations understand something terrifying. Strength alone is stupid. History proves it. The greatest empires weren't built by the strongest soldiers. They were built by the smartest generals, and the Greeks knew exactly which god represented that truth. In myth after myth, the same pattern repeats. Ares charges forward. Athena waits. Ares roars. Athena calculates. Ares destroys. Athena wins. Even when Ares possesses more physical power, he loses, because brute force has a fatal weakness. It's predictable. Anger always moves in a straight line. Strategy moves in silence. That's why Athena became the symbol of civilized warfare, the disciplined, intelligent approach to battle rather than blind rage. The irony? Ares never learns. He never adapts. He never evolves. Because rage cannot learn. Only thinking can. And that's the real lesson hidden inside these myths. Not just about gods, but about humanity. Every war, every conflict, every struggle between enemies is really a fight between these two forces: chaos or control, emotion or strategy. And every time humanity chooses Ares, the same thing happens. The battlefield fills with blood. But every time someone chooses Athena, the war ends faster, cleaner, smarter. The Greeks understood something most civilizations forget. The greatest weapon in war is not a sword. It's a mind. Two gods ruled war. One ruled through fury. The other ruled through thought. And history quietly proved which one mattered more. Because the most dangerous warrior in the world is not the strongest. It's the one who thinks. So, here's the question. If Athena and Ares fought without armies, just the two of them, who would really win? The god of strength or the goddess of strategy? Tell me what you think in the comments. But if this rivalry fascinated you, then the next story gets even darker. Because Greek mythology hides a far more terrifying war god, one who made even Ares look tame. A god who didn't just start wars, he ended worlds, and his name was Kratos.